Well, good morning. How are you all today? And welcome to American Reversion. I'm Steve Smith. Grab a cup of whatever you drink in the morning. Hopefully it's out of an American Reversion mug, right? Because everything tastes better out of these. You know we're putting these things out. I have something to share with you in just a minute. But we're going to talk today about the importance of noncompliance and how powerful that can be. You know, we talk here. If you're new, by the way, welcome. We have a lot of new people joining. We talk here about resisting and trying to reverting the reversion of reverting our country back to the way it was supposed to be, the way our founders intended it, and generations and generations have allowed it to decline. We know that. I ran across, I have something to share with you in just a second, but I'm going to read an article to you today, a great article that I ran across this morning. It's from the Liberty Daily. Well, it's carried by the Liberty Daily. It's not from that. It's written by Jeffrey Tucker of the Epic Times and carried by Liberty Daily. And it's called Ungovernable, a Nation of Non-Compliers. It's a great article. And it's an article with some humor in it, but it addresses the serious questions, and I think it answers some and it raises some. So I wanna read that to you, and as always, when I put this video up on the Patreon channel, I will put the link to this article as well, so you can read it yourself, and so you can share it with others, whatever you'd like to do. And if you're and thank you, by the way, thank you for those of you who have joined us on the Patreon channel. You're helping to support the channel, this channel. And if you're not with us, I'd invite you over. I put more stuff over on there than I do on YouTube, and that's down below. And all of it's designed to kind of bolster you and your attempts to help with bringing America back, and also that you can share. Well, what I want to mention to you today before I get into this article, and probably most of you have seen, we're starting to put out a line of mugs, of American Reversion mugs. And I think they're just coming out great. The first one is, of course, the one I'm drinking out of today. Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. Let me take a sip. Yes, it does taste better after these. And on the back, of course, we always have on the reverse a selection from the Declaration of Independence with Thomas Jefferson's picture there. The next one that came out, I think I told you about this one yesterday, I'm not sure. And this one is One Nation Under God, and the picture of Washington there and his prayer at Valley Forge, American Reversion. And on the back, it says, and of course we have our banner there, and on the back, and the reason that I designed these like this, I should slip this in, is while you're drinking from that, whoever's sitting across from you at home, at work, or whatever, is going to be able to see this. And one of the reasons that I put these out is as conversation starters. First off, for us to remind ourselves daily of the principles on which our country was founded. And second, in order to be a conversation starter, you know, we talk about getting people involved, getting people to understand what's going on in our world. And nothing better, you know, if you try to sit down and you just say, hey, I want to talk to you about what's wrong with our country. Well, that's not going to go very far if they're not already, on the same page we are. But this can help. And while you're sitting there at the office and you're drinking out of your One Nation Under God cup, and they see this, they can say, hey, what's that on your cup? And then you can say, well, I'll tell you what that is. It's from Washington's General Orders in 1779, and he says, whereas it becomes us humbly to approach the throne of Almighty God with gratitude and praise for the wonders which his goodness has wrought in conducting our forefathers to this western world, and above all that he hath diffused the glorious light of the gospel, whereby through the merits of our gracious Redeemer we may become the heirs of his eternal glory. Within that are several lessons with which most people are unfamiliar, and that's going to give you a chance to kind of spread the message around. Well, today we just have a new one out, and it is a beautiful one. And it is there. I'll show you the picture there. It's a little bit. This is kind of a subdued one, but it's beautiful. And I'll read it. It's a quote by Benjamin Franklin. It says, "We must indeed all hang together, or most assuredly we shall hang separately." You know what that is. That was on his signing of the Declaration. And it's kind of the same today, isn't it? I mean, we will only get things done if we work together. And if we don't work together, if we don't support each other, well, we're not going to be successful in it, in our endeavors here. I'll read the back of this. As I say, there's our and then on the back, Benjamin Franklin. This is kind of subdued, so I'll do my best to read this in the kind of dim light that I keep in my office. And it says, at 81 years old, Benjamin Franklin was the oldest signer of the Declaration of Independence. On signing the Declaration that would either seal the new country's fate or bring a new freedom to a new nation, he declared, "Gentlemen, we must indeed all hang together, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately." You know, and that's another great lesson. Not just a lesson in civics, but a lesson in, well, resistance, rebellion, and history, American history. Many people don't know this. So anyway, those are all currently available. There's going to be more. I'm coming out with an entire series of these, and they're available on the Stonemont website, stonemont.us. I mentioned that I'm going to have my web guy put together an American Reversion website that will come fairly soon, but it's not up yet. Until then, these are available on the stonemont.us website. Okay, I want to get around to this article, and I'm going to read it to you, and then we're gonna talk about it a little bit. It answers some questions, and it asks more questions. It at least poses questions to me that I'll talk about when I get done. Let me have one more sip, and then we'll begin. And it starts. Again, it's by Jeffrey Tucker. The train wasn't scheduled for another 20 minutes, so I had a chance to contemplate the official sign on the door of the huge elevator leading to the platform. It said that only 4 people are allowed in because we must all practice social distancing. There was a helpful map of the interior of the elevator with stick figures telling people exactly where to stand. Yes, these stickers are still everywhere. I recall when they first went up, sometime in April 2020. They seemed oddly uniform and appeared even permanent. At the time, I thought, oh, this is a huge error because within a few weeks, the error of the whole of this idiocy is going to be known by all. Sadly, my worst fears came true. It was designed to be a permanent feature of our lives. Same with the strange arrows on the ground telling us which way to walk. They are still everywhere, stuck on the floor, an integral part of the linoleum. If you walk this way, you will infect people, which is why you have to walk that way, which is safe. As for masks, the mandates keep popping up in strange places, in strange ways. My inbox fills with pleas for how people can fight this stuff. The essential message of all these edicts: you are pathogenic, a carrier, poisonous, dangerous, and so is everyone else. Every human person is a disease vector. While it's fine you are out and about, you must always create a little isolation zone around you such that you have no contact with other human beings. It's so odd that no dystopian book or novel ever imagined a plot centered on such a stupid and evil concept. Not even in 1984, or The Hunger Games, or The Matrix, or Equilibrium, or Brave New World, or Anthem, was it ever imagined that a government would institute a rule that all people in public places must stand 6 feet away in all general directions from any other person. What some government would insist on this was too crazy for even the darkest imaginings of the most pessimistic prognosticator. That 200 governments in the world at roughly the same time would go there was unimaginable. And yet here we are, years after the supposed emergency, and while governments are not enforcing it for the most part, many are still pushing the practice as an ideal form of human engagement. Except that we are not doing it. In this train station, no one paid any attention to any of the signage. The exhortations were entirely ignored, even by those who were still masked up, and one presumes boosted 7 times. When the moment arrived for people to get into the elevator, a crowd began to pour in, quickly beyond 4, then 8, then 12. I stood there shoulder to shoulder with fully 25 other people in one elevator with a sign that demanded only 4 people get in at any one time. I sort of wanted to ask the crowd if they saw the sign and what did they think, but that would have been absurd because actually no one even cares. In any case, one guy asking a crowded elevator such a question would have raised suspicions that I was deep state or something. It was never clear in any case who was enforcing this. Who issued the rule? What are the penalties for not complying? No one ever said. Sure, there was in the past usually some flunky bureaucrat or Karen who yelled at people and said do this and don't do that, but those people seemed long ago to have given up. It's not even a thing anymore, and yet the signs still exist. Probably they will stay forever. There is an enormous disjunction that still persists between what we are told to do and what we actually do. It's as if incredulity toward official dictate is now baked into our daily lives. My first thought is that it doesn't make much sense at all, even from the point of view of those who aspire to control our lives, to issue commands to which no one listens or obeys. On the other hand, there might be some meta-rationale for this, as if to say, we are nuts, you know we are nuts, we know you know we are nuts, but we are in charge and can continue to do this anyway. In other words, edicts to which no one complies serve a certain purpose. They are a visual reminder of who is in charge, what those people believe, and the presence of a sword of Damocles hanging above the whole population. At any point, anyone can be snatched away from normal life, made a criminal, and be forced to pay a price. True. Just like firearms confiscation laws. The nuttier the edicts, the more effective the message. Thus do we live in insane times. There seems to be a huge and widening gulf separating the rulers from the ruled, and this gulf pertains to values, aims, methods, and even vision for the future. Whereas most of the population aspires to live a better life, we cannot shake the sense that someone out there who has more power than the rest of us aspires for us to be poorer, more miserable, more afraid, more dependent, and more compliant. After all, we are just barely shaking off the most grandiose experiment in universal human control in the historical record. The attempt to micromanage the whole of everyone belonging to the human race in the name of gaining control over the microbial kingdom. The effort petered out over time, but how in the heck does anyone with ruling class power expect to maintain any credibility after such a destructive experiment? And yet there is a reason we have heard precious few concessions, that it was all bogus and unworkable, and why there is still a dripping sound of papers telling us that the whole scheme worked pretty well, and that people who say otherwise are disseminators of disinformation. There are still publishing opportunities out there to trash repurposed generics and praise the shots and boosters. The power is still with the crazy people, not with those who question them. And the people who threw themselves into COVID controls at the greatest years of their lives are still at it. Hardly a day goes by when there is not a freshly written hit piece on the resistance and efforts to trash those with enough sagacity to see through all the baloney. Far from being rewarded, those who protested and opposed are still living under a cloud that comes with being an enemy of the state. We all know that it is not just about these dumb stickers and these virus controls. There is more going on. Coincidence with the pandemic restrictions came the triumph of woke ideology, the intense push for EVs, The wild ramp up in weather paranoia with the discovery that climates change, a rampant gender dysphoria, and denial of chromosomal reality, an unprecedented refugee flood that no one in power is willing to mitigate, a continued attack on gas, including even stoves, and a host of other inane things that are driving rational people to the brink of despair. We long ago gave up the hope that all of this is random and coincidental, any more than it has so happened that nearly every government in the world decided to plaster social distancing signs everywhere at the same time. Something is going on, something malevolent. The battle of the future really is between them and us, but who or what them is remains opaque, and too many of us are still confused about what the alternative is to what is happening all around us. Noncompliance is an essential start, regardless. That crowded elevator, assembling spontaneously in open defiance to the blasting signage, is a sign that something in the human longing to be free, to make our own decision, still survives. There are cracks in the great edifice of control. Well, I think that was a great article. There are some truths there, certainly. Well, there's a lot of truths there. There are cracks in the edifice of control. One of the points that they make, that he made, and you all understand this, is that all of the rules that are out there are not necessarily rules that they intend to enforce universally. And I talked about this on the other channel about just like with the gun control. They can pass all of the laws they want to about making certain firearms illegal, and you got to turn these in by such and such a date, or possession of them is a felony, and they're not going to go around and try to collect all the guns. But what the purpose of these things is that if they want to use the law against you, and they want to target somebody, they certainly can. That's important in any control mechanism, governmental control mechanism, to be able to have something to control individual people. And as a result, dissenters, whatever, and as a result, make examples of them, and thereby to put fear into the hearts of the rest of the masses. Well, we've seen what's coming up. I think the controls in the past. We've seen these things bob up in the news. Oh, it's coming again. It's really scary. It's even worse. Lockdowns may be coming. This and that and the other thing. I think most of these things are testing the waters. They're putting these articles out to see what they check the comments and they see what effect is this having on the population, on the masses. What's happening? Can we push this further, or do we need to step back a little bit? And if they step back a little bit, it doesn't mean that they're going to not do it. It just means that they're going to give it some more time before they maybe tweak their approach and hit it harder in the future, because their goal is always control. Okay, they're never going to get to the point to where their goal is not control of us. So it's not a matter of waiting. It's a matter of actively resisting. Okay, we can't wait them out. These people play the long game. When I read the other day about the 45 rules of the American Communist Party, and I mentioned the American Communist movement that started in the 19-teens. I mean, that's over 100 years ago, and they have built it. They're patient. They're slow. They build one block on top of another because their game is the long game, and we have a tendency not to play the long game politically or globally, because we, the producers, the ones who spend our time making a living, raising our families, becoming responsible community members, we don't have a lot of extra time to get involved with trying to control other people. That's none of us care about controlling other people. So we have to we have to have this realization of the enemy, essentially. And so we have to understand that we cannot wait them out. It's not a matter of, oh, this too will pass. It won't pass unless we resist. And we want to resist so that we don't have to take it to a further step, right? Because no sane person wants to go there. I understand all the arguments for it, but nobody wants to go there if we don't have to. Let me put it that way. And usually something can be solved if you catch it soon enough. Now, somebody left a comment, I think on yesterday's. It's too late. It's too late. You should have stood up years ago. Well, I don't know who they were talking about. You should have stood up years ago. Well, many of us have resisted this for a long time. The problem is not enough have been resisting. And we can resist on our daily lives. Many of you know that when Kelly and I used to work at a major hospital system, and when it came about that they were going to make everybody take the you-know-what, we said no, not going to do it. Well, they threatened us with our jobs. And as a result of our church, we were able to get a religious exemption. And then they said, but you have to submit to testing, weekly testing for the you-know-what. We said, no, I'm not going to do that either. And they couldn't believe that we were refusing that. And they said, well, but if you don't, you're going to lose your job. And we said, well, there you go. Have at it. Do what you will. And they thought we would give in. And this went on, this process. And then one day they said, well, you're not going to be able to, we're not going to be able to allow you to report for work after from now on until you show that, until you decide to submit to the testing. I said, well, that's not going to happen. And this went on for a couple of months. They held me in limbo for a couple of months, fully expecting, and both of us, Kelly too, fully expecting that we would knuckle under when we saw the paycheck stop and everything like this, And we didn't. We said no. Our no means no. And of course, we were able to do that because although the hospital represented a lot of money to us, to be real honest, and a lot of bennies, that wasn't my only revenue stream. They didn't know that. They didn't know that really the money they were providing, while substantial, was not the majority of my income. That's a lesson in preparedness. But the lesson in resistance is you need to be able to resist when these people come try to control you. And the more that do, and we weren't there were other people that also said, no, I'm not going. They went and got other jobs, in the hospital. And as a result, that hospital system just went down into the toilet. I talked to a couple of doctors and nurses that I know over there just within the last month, and I asked them, hey, how's everything going over there? And some people in their security department. And they said, it's horrible. So, these things, they shoot themselves in the foot so often, but it can have a detrimental effect on individuals. But the lesson there, I think, is that if you don't comply, if you put up resistance, you might have to take a hit. Prepare for that. Make sure that you can take the hit. But it's going to destroy the system as well. Okay. Resistance to the system of control will diminish the control of the system. Does that make sense? Because that hospital system now is a wreck. So anyway, I thought this was a great article that I read. I hope that you'll spread it around. Share this. I didn't ask this at the beginning, but This channel really is growing, and we're happy to see everybody who is joining. It's great to have you. Would you make sure that you're subscribed? Make sure that you're hitting the bell so that you get a notification of every one that I put up. So far, since the first of the year, we've been doing one every day, and that's our intent. And your input is very important. It's welcome, and it's important in the comments down there because it helps other people too. It's a place for you to voice your experience or share your questions or whatever. So comment. Make sure that you're subscribed. Give us a thumbs up if you would. That helps everything. And share the video. We want to turn this country around to the way that it should be. That's the whole meaning of reversion. And we want to turn it back to the way that it should be. It's become a wreck. It's become a mess. It's been slogging through the ditch for too many years. And we don't want our kids and our grandkids to grow up in the kind of world that it's become. We want to take it back. In one of my books, I think it's the second one, The Revival, I say in one of Jim Wyatt's speeches, is that we have to create the world we want our children to grow up in. That's what we need to do. So it's great to have you here. If you'd like to support the channel, besides that, join us on the Patreon channel if you would. The link is down below. And that helps monetarily, certainly, but it also gives you access to more information. I put more stuff over there than I do on the YouTube. And then be sure that you check and go over to the Stonemont website, stonemont.us. Take a look at these cups that are now coming out for you all, American reversionists, and they're just great, and they're conversation starters. Not only are you going to enjoy having this around and drinking your coffee, tea, eggnog, whatever out of that, but it's going to help spread the message to those you come into contact with. So I'm going to finish my cup of coffee and take a look at the news today, because I'm sure we're going to have an interesting day today like everything. It's a new year. It's going to be a heck of a year. Remember, like we say, America needs a reversion. It needs you to be a part of it, and it needs your friends to get involved too, and it's up to you to kind of spread the word, spread the message, because the more people that we get involved, the easier it's going to be, the more quickly we'll be able to get things done. If we're going to have any hope at all of turning this country around, we need everybody on board who's not right now. So you all have a good day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.